And I mean truly random rally on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. A rally in support of Russia, I guess, given all the Russian flags. At least a rally against the U.S. supporting Ukraine in trying to stand up against the Russian invasion of their country. This was a tiny event. It was small. It was a weird assemblage of Americans. There were Proud Boys there. There were some of the white supremacist groups you'd recognize from the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville a few years ago. Also represented prominently the remains of the bizarre Lyndon LaRouche cult. There were a lot of people with Russian flags, also the occasional flag of the former Soviet Union. Also, at least one person who guest hosts for Tucker Carlson on the Fox News channel was there as a featured speaker. There were anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists, a lot of them. There were cryptocurrency promoters. It was a really weird group. It was a small rally.
That was how MSNBC's Rachel Maddow chose to describe the Rage Against the War Machine rally this past weekend. Host of the Sabby Sabs podcast and co-host of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, Sabrina Salvati, joins us to discuss her experience at the rally firsthand. Welcome, Sabrina.
Hi, Bree. Hi, Robby. Good morning.
Good morning. So right off the bat, what's your perception of how the event went in terms of turnout, speakers, the content of the speeches, because there was just so much controversy leading into this event. I think a lot of folks just want to have a sense of how it felt on the ground.
Yes, I would say I talked to Jill Stein, and Jill said she estimated there was about approximately 1,000 people that showed up for the event. I thought the event went very great. I thought the speeches were amazing and phenomenal. So I covered the entire event. I streamed the entire event, along with a lot of other people as well. There was a lot of controversy surrounding this event, and I want to explain to people that I do understand both sides of that controversy. There were some people who were against the event because they felt like marginalized groups were not centered in this particular rally, and they felt that we should not unite with people that do not agree with marginalized groups' issues. But I also understand the other side of the criticism, which was for people who supported the event, pushing back on that rhetoric as well, because they felt like this is to stop a nuclear war, and we have to rebuild the anti-war movement in this country. And in order to do that, that means that we may have to unite with people that agree with us on this particular issue. They may not agree with us on the other issues, but when it comes to being anti-war in this country, they do agree with us on this issues. That's how you get those numbers out there. So I think that people need to look back to something like the Vietnam War. The last time that we had a large anti-war movement in this country were the Vietnam protests. Now you need to ask, why is that? There are two factors here. Number one, during the Vietnam War, the United States government implemented the draft. So there were a lot of Americans that were directly affected by that war. And two, mainstream media actually showed civilian casualties during the Vietnam War, which you do not see broadcast today in reference to wars. You didn't see it for Afghanistan, you didn't see it for Iraq either. So the American people were able to see the number of civilian casualties that were affected as a result as well. And I think that's why the numbers increased. But here we are today in the age of internet, in the age of social media, Twitter and Facebook, and we struggle to get large numbers out. So this rally that you saw, this is probably going to be the largest anti-war rally that you see this year. And I want people to fully understand, if we want to get 15,000 people out in the streets, such as they had during the Vietnam protests, you're going to have to reach different people. You're going to have to work across the aisle. Now, people seem to have no problem with this when it's politicians who do this in D.C. They call it bipartisanship. But when we do it on the outside to unite over one particular issue, it's a big problem for a lot of people, and that's really unfortunate.
So I completely agree with you on all that. You know, we don't have the luxury of just, getting together with people you totally agree with. You know, that's a small contingent for many of us. You have to unite people who are passionate about ending the war, or at least confronting what's going on, even if there are other disagreements. And that's always been how anti-war causes or causes that became as big and influential as an anti-war cause in the past have done. I want to ask, and I don't want to dwell on just criticisms of the rally, but one of the other criticism I think is that some people are accusing the rally of featuring speakers who are not actually anti-war, who have a pro-Russia bent. There were some Russian flags, and given that Russia is the aggressor in this conflict, invaded the other country, then so the accusation being by platforming those people, you're actually not platforming anti-war speakers. You're just platforming like anti-Ukraine speakers.
Yeah, so I want to speak on that for just a second. I wasn't actually an organizer for this event. If I were an organizer, were there different people that I would have invited? Yes. I think some of the people would have been the same, but some of the people would have been different. So I totally understand that rhetoric as well. But I also want people to understand, Rachel Maddow has talked about this, and she's saying there were Russian flags as well. There were also Ukraine flags, and mainstream media isn't showing that. There's a reason for that. So here is thousands of people getting together to call for peace negotiations, and mainstream media is already smearing this as a pro-Russia, pro-Putin rally here. These are thousands of people coming together asking the United States government to call for peace and to stop giving billions of dollars to Ukraine. And what people have to really understand is I've been a part of multiple rallies and events, and these types of critiques come up every single time. When I participated in the marches for Medicare for All 2 years ago, that was another criticism, that we didn't like the speakers, so you guys shouldn't participate. How dare you have a speaker who's a doctor, a medical professional, who agrees with Medicare for All, who's conservative? Shame on you. So they smeared those events as well. People need to understand that this is a distraction. It doesn't matter who the speaker is. There are going to be those voices that are going to attack it because they want to weaken support for it. What people should be more upset about is the fact that instead of giving billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, instead of giving them packages which include health care, which include clean water, we need to be advocating for those things, people right in this country, for Americans right here. Where's the billions of dollars for people in Flint? Where's the billions of dollars for people in Jackson, Mississippi? Where's the billions of dollars for the Bronx? Where's the billions of dollars to stop the poverty and the homelessness crisis that we have in this country? That's what people should be focusing on. Our government has shown us multiple times that they have the money. The money is there. They just don't want to give it to us. So we cannot be distracted by people focusing on who the speakers are. If you do not like the speakers, start your own rally and organize your own base around that. That is just a distraction. I have to be clear there. Sorry about that, Robby. But that is so frustrating sometimes.
No, I agree with you. I wanted to give you the opportunity to respond to that accusation. I absolutely agree with your point, and I think it's harmful to the cause of the anti-war movement to try to portray this as just pro-Russian, as mainstream voices like Rachel Maddow are doing, which is because they don't actually want anti-war voices to prevail.
Yeah, I'm curious, I haven't watched that Rachel Maddow clip, but it'd be one thing if people were saying, I am anti-war. I believe in the value of an anti-war rally. And in fact, I hope to participate and want an invitation to the next anti-war rally. I, Rachel Maddow, would love to use my platform to draw attention to it and to maybe be a speaker at said event.
Yeah, where's the rally she's hosting?
Exactly.
I'm waiting.
Or even just want to participate, even show up at, or even just to make the statement on air, hi, my name is Rachel Maddow and I am against war. But to say that would implicate them in the Russia-Ukraine conflict and force them to say something about wanting the war to end. And in this media environment, even saying, I think we should be pushing toward a settlement. I think the goal of U.S. involvement is to end open war, open conflict, is to be characterized as pro-Putin, is to be characterized as anti-Ukraine and not to have their interests at heart and to want Ukraine to
and
say,
it's the easiest thing in the world to tear down and nitpick what other people are doing if you're not doing anything constructive.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought up the Medicare for All protest 2 years ago, Sabby, because that smear campaign was even more pronounced. Now, partly because you did mention there were some speakers that if you were planning this Rage Against the War rally, you would not have invited. So just so that the audience can have a better sense of what we're talking about here, can you go through some of the speakers that were there, the ones that you were happy to hear from and perhaps would have invited yourself, and then help us to understand why there were some other speakers that were controversial and why?
Yes. So, case in foremost, there's a lot of focus on Jimmy Dore, Jackson Hinkle, and I want to let everyone know who was not there and hasn't seen the footage yet. Chris Hedges also spoke at that rally. Max Blumenthal spoke at that rally. Cynthia McKinney sent a video. Roger Waters sent a video. Tara Reid spoke at that rally. Kim Iverson spoke at that rally. Dennis Kucinich spoke at that rally. And the clip that Rachel Maddow chose to use was of Tulsi Gabbard. She's smearing this as it was a Proud Boys, right-wing, pro-Russia event with very, very few turnout. If there was very few turnout, then why are you talking about it? So people need to ask these kinds of questions. But for me, I think that some of the criticism came from Jackson Hinkle being invited as a speaker. There were a couple people that did drop out of the rally because of that. I think most of you guys know, like Code Pink did ask Medea Benjamin not to be a speaker. Although she was at the rally, she did support the rally. So some people had criticism there with him being invited. And then also Tulsi Gabbard was another one that came up. Now, I would not have invited Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I understand that she's good on this particular issue with Russia and Ukraine. We need to call for peace. But I don't consider Tulsi Gabbard to be anti-war based on what I've seen. So I personally would not have invited her. Well, Tulsi Gabbard still supports drone strikes, and she still supports economic war. So I think that here's something I think we need to talk about on the left and for those who are on the right and libertarians as well. What do we mean by anti-war? Because when I say anti-war, I'm not just talking about on the battlefield. I'm talking about economic warfare as well. I'm talking about the sanctions that are being implemented on people in Afghanistan right now. So I think we need to define that or redefine that, what it means to be anti-war. But I know that Tulsi is opposed to regime change wars. That's fine and dandy, but that still doesn't make you anti-war if you're supporting the other ones. So I think, me personally, I would not have invited her. But did that stop me from attending the event? No. Some people had criticism about Jackson Hinkle because they said that on his show, he was actually supporting Russia, that he was saying, yes, cheering on Russia. I haven't seen that. I haven't watched that in a while. But that is what some of the criticism that had come out from about the people that were invited. And my thing is, again, I did not organize this event. I think that there were criticism about there not being a number of African Americans that were speaker for this rally as well. One of the things I did find out at the rally is apparently some of the speakers actually reached out to the organizers and asked if they could speak. So I think that may be a piece that some people are not aware of, but I understand that criticism as well. But like I said, Bree, I've been a part of multiple events and multiple rallies, and there's always these criticism and attacks about the speakers as well. So it's really unfortunate. What are we supposed to do? There's nobody in this country that I agree with on every single particular issue. But where do I agree on libertarians? I agree with them on being anti-war. I agree with them on that issue. So yes, we can work together on that issue. When it comes to other issues like Medicare for all, when it comes to canceling student loan debt, I need to work together with people who agree on those issues. But I think for me, just smearing people and saying that they're pro-Putin because they're calling for peace, I think it's absolutely ridiculous at this point.
Right. And Rachel Maddow has a platform with which to call for peace if she so chooses. So she uses that platform to malign your efforts and efforts of people like us. So it's pretty interesting. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about the rally. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
More Rising right after this.